I know a lot of us are probably still upset about last video I made where basically the shotgun category took a massive hit, specifically those pump actions, those heavy hitter shotguns just got obliterated into the ground, except for maybe the Marine SP, which is still usable but not nearly as good as it was. But thankfully, if you're looking for something to kind of scratch that itch, that sort of pump action finesse, movement king, the two pump chump style of gameplay, we have a solution now, and this is something that we've had for a while in the game that we've overlooked, and that is the JAK Wardens. The JAK Wardens are the 1887s from the classic Modern Warfare 2, brought back to life, of course, in Warzone 3, and they're still available to use in Black Ops 6's version of Warzone, and they're just as good as they ever were, and honestly, because of all the other nerfs to the heavy hitter shotguns, this is probably the best heavy hitting shotgun that we have thus far, with the exception of some of the one-shots. This is the shotgun you want to use if you're looking for something to satisfy that pump action itch. This is the closest thing we have, and so I'm going to go over that today. If you want to hop to a certain part of the video, make sure to check the timestamps below. I will have a class to show at the end, which for this thing, granted, it's pretty simple, but still people ask for it, so let's just go ahead and hop right into it. First, I'm going to go over the damage and the ranges. Now let's go back in time just a little bit. There was a point in time where the JAK Wardens actually received a small update, a small little patch that adjusted some of their damage ranges, and this was the result, or at least it should have been the result based on the patch notes. But what ended up happening was something weird where you weren't quite getting this exact profile, and in fact the damage was dropping off incrementally over time with your pellet damage, so it enabled you to actually get two shots further than you were actually supposed to according to the patch notes. And so realistically, what's going to happen when you use this gun? Just go ahead and forget this damage profile that I just showed you. I just wanted to show it to you for reference. But essentially, out to about the 10-meter mark is kind of where you can expect to get a good, decent two-shot kill, meaning both fired at the same time, with this gun. That's actually really, really good, and keep in mind, that's if you have good aim and good placement. These things can be a little finicky. If you're a little off with your aim, if you're jumping around, it might take 3 shots, so just keep it in mind. Around 10 meters is where you can expect if you're standing still, you're aiming at good chest level, 10 meters is where you can get a consistent 2-shot, but it is entirely possible to get it even further. For example, if you have something like that Scarlet cylindrical laser, which is a really fun way to play but also incredibly difficult, you can get 2 shots out to about the 17-meter mark, give or take a few tenths of a meter, of course, which is really, really far. In Warzone 3, you were actually able to 2-shot out to its minimum damage range, close to 30 meters with this laser, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's really capable anymore. So to sum it up, if you have good aim, good placement, you're not jumping around with your spread going super wide, and you have a decently tight spread, your 2 shots will be decently consistent if you hit your shots well out to around a 10-meter mark. That's what I found, but it's entirely possible to get them even further. Like I said, it's just that the spread isn't really necessarily working in your favor unless you're using the Scarlet cylindrical laser, in which case you can have good 2 shots out to maybe about that 17-meter mark, but it's really difficult to use. Another really awesome function of this gun is one-shot headshots are entirely possible, and it's not just point blank. Like with all the pump actions, you can basically get one-shot headshots in their max damage ranges, but that's like 1 meter. It's typically never gonna happen. But with this thing, oh no, you can get it even out to about 6 or 7 meters, even with a basic spread. As long as you're kind of aiming up in that upper chest and head level, I've gotten one-shots at around 5 meters. It's entirely possible. It's not super inconsistent either. As long as you're doing it very intentionally and you have that aim and you're just hitting those shots well, you can get one-shot headshots. I've done it multiple times in the couple of games I played with this thing. It happened multiple times. It's entirely possible. You just gotta hit your shots right. This is entirely capable of one-shot headshots, again, out to about 6 or 7 meters. So it's just another incentive to use this thing and have a blast with. And of course, do I need to point out the obvious that this thing is badass? It's 2 lever action shotguns. You twirl them whenever you reload. It's just so cool. You feel like a cowboy. It's super fun. And honestly, I'm okay with this being sort of the pump action meta, even though it's not a pump action. This is sort of the heavy hitter meta, besides maybe some of the one-shots like the Lockwood 300 dual trigger, which we will make a video of course. This thing is so much fun, and it is very good. But I want to be super clear here. This isn't like the end-all be-all. You're going to start dominating lobbies just because you're using this thing. Oh no, you still have to move. You still have to finesse. This is your cat and mouse shotgun that I was talking about. You can't just run up to people and just expect to dominate everybody in one-on-one engagements when you're not moving or anything like that. You need to finesse people. You need to work with your corners. You need to know how to play with this thing. And one of the things I learned how to do is to kind of walk around corners with this thing, because it can be a little awkward when you're sprinting and with the Omni movement. If you're like me, where you try to push back on the thumbstick to kind of prevent yourself from sprinting even more, and you just end up sprinting again with the Omni movement, what I've learned to do is kind of just walk around certain corners and have my gun up and ready to go. And also that prevents your spread from getting too wide when you move around. And if you want to play really, really crazy, put on that Scarlet cylindrical laser, because that's going to make your spread as tight as it can possibly be, making you get 2 shots at ridiculous distances. But the real finesse about that thing is you have to stop moving, make sure your spread gets as condensed as it can be, get your shot off, and do that without overexposing yourself. It's a super high risk, high reward weapon. It's basically a high skill gun. This is not an SMG. It's not easy mode. This is going to be a little awkward to work with, and not to mention you can't aim down sights or tack stance, so you're locked to hip fire. So there's some awkward things about it, but overall it's probably the best option here, and I would say it's even better than the Marine SP. If you want another class, it's really simple: Crownbreaker choke, Verdant hook cylindrical laser, and of course the JAK Warden after part. If you want to get crazy, you can use something like the cylindrical laser. This is a really good laser, but it's very, very high risk, like way more unforgiving than any other laser because of the spread, and if you move, it's going to be a really wide spread, but super fun to use if you're used to that Counter-Strike sort of gameplay. There are some muzzle attachments you can use in place of this if you want to use a suppressor to get a little bit more range, or if you want to use something like the Flash Twist 90 muzzle, that does give you even more range, better than the suppressors. It's just this gun already has great range. That's not really the issue with it. The spread is definitely the big issue with this thing, so use the Crownbreaker choke because none of the other chokes do anything, and you'll have a decently tight spread for most engagements underneath that 8-meter mark. As for my thoughts overall on this shotgun, I'm glad to see it in the limelight again. To me at least, it's probably the best thing we have that's for like pump action style gameplay. The Marine SP is still good, it's decent. It's just that there's some limitations to it because its sprint to fire speed is pretty awkward, and it can be a little unforgiving in that regard. And this thing is just badass. It's fun. It's got a decent sprint to fire speed. You don't need to worry about that. It's got a lot going for it, even though it is a little awkward because you can't aim down sights, you can't tack stance it or anything. What you see is what you get. But in my opinion, if you can get used to it, it's probably the best thing we have, the best thing closest to those pre-nerf shotguns we just had. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. As always, down below in the comments, I want to know, what do you guys think about this shotgun? Are you glad to see it getting some attention and love again? Are you happy that we have something with some decent, good 2-shot potential? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.